I still remember the room falling silent. It was a bright Tuesday morning, the sun pouring through the glass walls of the 27th floor conference room like it was spotlighting all of us. I had only meant to make a joke. Just a small, harmless joke to lighten an intense company meeting. Everyone knew our CEO, Aurelia Sun, was serious, driven, focused, and impossible to read. She was the kind of leader who walked into a room and shifted the atmosphere without saying a word. I was just a mid-level analyst named Kian, usually invisible in these meetings. Yet that morning, when I casually said, "Would you marry me on my birthday, Aurelia?" I hadn't expected the world to stop. I hadn't expected her to look directly at me. And I certainly hadn't expected her answer. I grew up believing I was ordinary. A quiet family, a small town, and dreams scribbled in notebooks. Moving to the city was supposed to change everything for me. I thought success meant climbing corporate ladders, shaking hands, and pushing through long work nights. Yet even after 3 years in the company, I felt like a shadow. Meetings blurred. Reports piled. My reflection in office windows felt more like a stranger than myself. Aurelia was entirely different. She was 38 but looked timeless. Sharp black suit jackets, hair pinned neatly, a gaze that could dismantle excuses and lay bare the truth. She wasn't cold. She was just built from something heavier, something earned and carried. Rumors said she had inherited the company after losing her father unexpectedly. That she sacrificed everything for the business. That love wasn't something she believed in anymore. I never knew whether any of that was true, but I could see sadness beneath her strength. Some people shine brightly. Others burn quietly. She was the second kind. The reason I made that joke was simple. It was my birthday that week. No one in the office knew except one colleague, Mira, who had brought me cupcakes the night before. I was tired. I was overworked. I just wanted to breathe. So when my turn came to report quarterly metrics, I tried to lighten the tension. I thought people would laugh. Instead, the moment froze. Aurelia didn't laugh. She just stared at me, like she was evaluating the weight behind my words. Then she asked for a break and dismissed the room. The rest of the morning, I sat at my desk replaying my stupidity. Everyone avoided my eyes. I imagined disciplinary letters, HR calls, maybe even termination. I had embarrassed her in a room full of executives. What had I been thinking? My hand shook as I typed. My heart beat like a drum trying to escape my chest. Around noon, I was summoned to her office. Her office faced the city skyline, full daylight streaming in, vivid and unforgiving. When she turned to look at me, there was no anger. There was something else. Something heavy. She asked me to sit. Her voice was calm. She asked why I made that joke. I told her the truth. That I was tired. That I felt invisible. That I thought maybe a moment of laughter might remind us all we were still human. I don't know what convinced her, but her expression softened, and for the first time, I saw her not as a CEO, but as a person who understood loneliness too. We talked for nearly an hour. She asked about my family, my dreams, my losses, my fears. No one had ever asked me like that, not even people I called close. She listened. Not professionally. Humanly. When I left her office, something inside me felt changed. Over the next few weeks, she didn't treat me like I was special, but she did acknowledge me. She greeted me when she entered meetings. She asked me for input directly. She even remembered my birthday. It wasn't romantic. It was something quieter. Two tired souls recognizing each other's silence. However, it didn't take long for rumors to begin. The office buzzed with whispered stories about me and her, none of them true. People assumed there must be something inappropriate happening. The kindness she showed me turned into weapons others used against my reputation. There were glares in hallways. Conversations stopped when I entered rooms. Notes were left anonymously on my desk, calling me an opportunist. It hurt more than I expected. One day, after weeks of tension, I asked Aurelia if my presence near her was damaging her image. She didn't answer right away. She just looked toward the skyline, sunlight coating her profile, and said, "People dislike what they do not understand. I can handle rumors. Can you? Her voice wasn't challenging. It was gentle. She was asking if I was strong enough to stay human in a world that tries to harden everyone, but life has a way of testing exactly what it asks from us. The company soon faced a crisis. A partnership deal that was supposed to secure the next quarter collapsed. Investors panicked. The board questioned Aurelia's decisions. Meetings became tense, sleepless nights became normal, and pressure weighed on her visibly. I saw her shoulders slump when no one was looking. I saw the tiredness hidden behind her perfect posture. The world always demands strength from those who are already tired. I wanted to help her, even if I didn't know how. So I worked with everything I had. I revised financial models overnight. I tracked potential alternative partners. I presented strategic recovery proposals with Mira beside me. And each time Aurelia thanked me, it sounded like she was thanking someone who had climbed down into the dark with her instead of watching from above. The day everything changed was a clear mid-morning, blue sky stretching endlessly. The crisis meeting that week would define our future. The boardroom was full, tension thick like heat. Everyone was restless, frustrated, ready to find a scapegoat. I was supposed to remain silent as usual. But as criticism mounted against her, something inside me refused to stay quiet. I spoke. Not with rehearsed professionalism, but with truth. I told the board that leadership wasn't the absence of mistakes. It was the courage to stand in the storm and keep others from drowning. I told them I had seen how tirelessly she fought. I said she didn't surrender. And that mattered. My voice shook. The room stared. Aurelia stared. But something shifted. The board didn't suddenly become kind. But they paused. Enough to give her space. Enough to give us time. After the meeting, we stepped out onto the terrace. Daylight bright and warm. She didn't speak. She just stood beside me, breathing, as if she had forgotten what breathing felt like. Then she said, "Do you remember that joke you made?" I laughed awkwardly. She didn't. She said, "You didn't embarrass me. You reminded me I was still alive." Her voice trembled. A month later, after the deal recovery succeeded and the crisis ended, the company held a gathering. It was formal, daylight streaming through chandeliers. People wore polished smiles. I tried to stay in the background. But Aurelia walked to the front. She addressed the employees. She thanked them. Then she called my name. I froze as every set of eyes turned to me again. When I walked up, she looked at me with that same unreadable softness from the office months before, and then she said, in front of everyone, on his birthday, he asked me to marry him. I never answered. The room held its breath. My answer, she continued gently, is that real partnership is built slowly, with honesty, trust, and courage. So here is my question instead: would you allow me to get to know you, truly, beyond titles, beyond rumors, beyond what the world expects? It wasn't a dramatic proposal. It wasn't romantic spectacle. It was real. Two people choosing to meet each other halfway, despite fear. Despite gossip. Despite everything. I nodded. Not because I knew where life would take us, but because I wanted to find out. We began slowly. Conversations. Walks in daylight by the river. Laughter discovered like something new. Healing isn't loud. It is patience. And we learned that together. If this story touched your heart even a little, please like, comment, subscribe, and share. Your support helps Kindness Journal continue spreading real stories of empathy and second chances.